Good. All right, good morning, everyone. On this rainy day, Christine Boland from Remax Ace here at Kennedy and Ellesmere. This morning, we're going to talk about easements and encroachments and rights of ways and sort of how to read some of that in a legal description. And we're going to talk about why that's important for us as realtors to be able to sort of just at a quick glance know that there's something there. So first things first, I think I should show you guys where to find a legal description, right? So let me just go log in here. Do you guys know where to find the legal description of a property? If you don't, that's bad. Every single listing you're getting and every single offer you prepare, you should be checking the legal description. You should be going into your geo warehouse. So I can't stress this enough. I see the most amount of complaints come through, not just our office, any office, like even the previous office I worked for, because the realtor didn't take the step and go into the geo warehouse and check for things like legal description, lot front, lot depth. So you guys should be just as habit going back in. You see, I come almost for every training session, whether we're doing CMAs, listing appointments, preparing offers for our buyers, working with our buyers, we always come back to that geo warehouse. Okay, it's available to us for a reason because we're supposed to be using it as a resource. So hope everybody can see there because I kind of switched a couple screens. Let me come out and come back in. Okay, where do we find the legal description of a property? We come to our geo warehouse, right? So when you're searching in Realm, you could pick any property. So let's just pick this 180 Worthington, for instance. That happens to be on my screen. We'll come down at below the pictures. You can see all the different options below. You can click on Geo Warehouse and it'll take you directly to that property. So it's easy. You don't even have to search for it. You can go into Geo and you can catch your search toolbar, your search bar right there, and you can search the address, name, PIN, or assessment roll number if you have it, or you can go directly from the listing. So if you're preparing an offer, you're going to be going directly from the listing into your Sky Slope kit. You should come in to your geo warehouse as well and always have it open, whether you're preparing your listing paperwork or you're preparing your offer paperwork. I have a couple of people who actually braved the rain and came in today. Most of my people are online today, so let me know if you have any questions. You can see though, right? Okay, so we can see when we open our geo warehouse that the legal description is right there below the who's on title, right? So the owner's names are there, the legal description is right below. So this one says lot 53, plan 65M, a whole lot of bunch of numbers, Richmond Hill, STEs over PT5. So we're going to learn how to read this a little bit because I think a lot of us just sort of look at it and go, I don't understand. Copy, paste into our offer, send it off, and we don't even think of it. And this is actually a good one I can tell already that we're going to analyze for a bit. So I'm going to go over to my description. So what is the difference between an easement and encroachment or a right of way? I thought we'd go over it quickly because not everybody fully understands it, right? So when you purchase a real property, you have to carefully review the agreement of purchase and sale, right? We're experienced real estate agents, so we're supposed to be able to look at that agreement of purchase and sale and say what the legal description is telling us, right? So an easement, let's just read the description here and then we'll talk about it. An easement is the legal right of an individual or entity to use another's land. When discussing easements, the individual or entity exercising their legal right to the land is a dominant tenement. While the property owner getting the right to use the land is a servient tenement. An example of an easement would be an easement for servicing utilities held by a utility company. In Ontario, an easement can be created in several ways through express intention, implied intention, prescription, and by statute. So what are different examples of some easements that we might come across when we're selling a property? Does anybody know? Everybody quiet online this morning? Okay, so you might have, for instance, a hydro easement, okay? Hydro might have buried lines through your backyard or like your gas line running through your backyard. You know when they say call before you dig? right? That's to show where those things are located on your property. And at any point, hydro or gas, Enbridge has the right to come on your property and service those things with or without your consent, right? Even though you own the land, they have that easement on the property. Okay. So what's the difference between an easement and an encroachment? Okay, an encroachment, it refers to an object or structure that intrudes on a person's entity, on a person or entity's land. An example of an encroachment would be when a neighbor builds a fence line on their property, but after a property survey, it's discovered that the fence line was built 3 feet onto neighbor B's land, right? So this is why it's important to grab surveys for our clients all the time. I find a lot of people say, oh, no survey, no big deal. You know, it's okay. Fences are up already. What are you going to care? It's really important to grab that survey, try and get it, because it's expensive to redraw for your client, but it's good for your client to have. So they know what the boundaries of their property are, and they also know if there's any encroachments, if the neighbor has maybe built a shed over onto their land, or a fence line, or tarred their driveway a little more than they had, you know, over time, especially if you've got an older tenant that's been there for an older owner that's been there for a while, not a tenant, and then somebody new moves into the neighborhood, they can definitely bully over it because they're new to the neighborhood. They don't know what the lot lines are, what the land lines are. Easy to find encroachments for sure. Okay, and then a right-of-way. What's a right-of-way? So a right-of-way is a type of easement which grants the individual specific access along a certain route of a person or person entity's property. An example of a right-of-way would be a shared driveway or a pathway between two properties. So if you go and show some houses in East York, I think East York, we see a lot of examples of this, right? Where the houses are really close together. It's barely enough for one car, and both people use that right of way to get to their backyard, their detached garages, right? So I've seen some funny ones in like Hamilton area where it's that person's driveway solely. Yeah, old neighborhoods. I don't know why they did that, right? In the old neighborhoods. It's strange. And you find there's a lot of disputes that happen with that, where one person owns that property and that driveway, and the neighbor needs to use it to get to their backyard for some reason. So really strange the way they were built, but they do exist, so we need to know about them, right? So that's the different kinds of the difference between easements, encroachments, and rights of way, right? So I just wanted to touch on easements. So easements, I think we come across them the most often, right? We usually don't come across encroachments unless there's some sort of dispute. And it's hard for us to tell on a legal description if there's an encroachment. You're normally looking at easements, right? So like I said, we're going to take a little example here. In the summer of 2019, Dave and Joanna moved into their newly purchased 1960s bungalow in North York. Their realtor helped them find this property, one that they wanted to build an addition onto and a pool in the backyard. A home inspector reported that everything was in order. The purchase concluded easily. 2 months after moving in, Dave contacted Protect Your Boundaries. The city had rejected their permit applications for the addition and the pool. There was, and had always been, a hydro easement over the backyard that would prevent their plans from getting the green light. Nightmare began. So here we go. The realtor didn't check it properly. The legal description would have said it. So we talked about what easements are a little bit. I won't go over that part again, but is there an easement on my property? If you know where to look, it's easy to find. Easements are on a property title and identified in the legal description as either ST, subject to an easement, or TW, together with. So these are the big identifiers that we're going to be looking for. Okay. Further investigation into the easement instruments, legal documents on title will provide a full description and explanation of the easement in question. So we're looking here, what can go wrong? An undisclosed or misrepresented easement by a seller can result in issues before closing and after. So I would say that the buyer agent would be more at fault because sometimes we can go back on the listing agent and we can say you didn't disclose certain things, but maybe that seller agent wasn't aware of the intention of the buyers in this case, right? The buyers in this case, we know they want to put in a pool and they want to put in an addition, right? Knowing that as the buyer agent can get you in a lot of trouble because maybe now that was their whole thing. Their dream was to buy a detached home with their family and to have a pool because maybe, you know, they're having another child and they really want to have this pool for their children in the backyard. Suits happen a lot with realtors. I see it come through. Nobody is free and clear from them. I tell you over and over again, it's very easy to be fined $30, $40, $50,000 by the clients, and they get ruled very easily. Treb and Rico will come down on you hard because we're supposed to be knowledgeable professionals, okay? And when we have the resources available to us and we're not checking them, they don't care. It's your fault, no matter what excuse you throw at them. You can't say, oh, I didn't know, right? So you should be checking that Geo warehouse. So if we go back and go onto this Geo warehouse here that I pulled up, let me go to share again. Let's have 1,000 tabs open. Okay, so this one that I pulled up, 180 Worthington in Richmond Hill, okay? We can see here where we're going to talk a little bit more about this lot plan, Richmond Hill stuff. We'll go further into reading the legal description. But just pertaining to that easement, you see here we were talking about the ST or the TW. We have right here ST, subject to easement over part 5, okay? So this is the entire legal description. We're going to need to see how this affects our client, okay? When you guys are pulling a survey, actually, I should try and find you guys an example of a survey as well. Your survey normally not only has just the subject property, it has a few properties around because they come in parcels like this. And we're going to go into the legal description, how we're going to read it. But that normally is, you know, a few parcels of land on that survey. So you're going to see what part it actually affects. Maybe part 5 doesn't affect your guy directly. Maybe it only affects the back end of their property. Maybe it only affects one side, you know what I mean? So maybe if the person wanted to put in a pool and it's not going down directly the middle of the backyard, it still might be possible. Just because there's an easement on the property doesn't mean it's like the end game for your client, but you want to definitely know where it is, okay? So right there is that ST subject to. How many of you guys are checking your Geo warehouse and checking your legal descriptions for easements and rights of way or anything like that for your clients? Have any of you ever had a problem with your clients? Before or after the fact, maybe a deal fell apart because of it? Maybe your client was really nervous when they realized there was an easement on the property? No? Everybody's had really good luck with everything? Sounds good. Okay, so we're going to go into the reading of a legal description a little bit here. Now, again, you have to remember that while you guys are reviewing this stuff and becoming knowledgeable about it, it is not legal advice. Yeah.
What is the part 5 meaning?
Sorry?
What is the part 5? PT5.
Part 5. So I'm going to go over that actually right now a little bit because normally on your survey, you're going to have this big lot and then they parcel it out into parts. That's going to be the section exactly of that plan that your the parcel of land that your client is purchasing, right? Good morning.
From that property, they divided it into 30 pockets.
Yeah, so this legal description that I've used for training before kind of gets into it a little bit. And it'll hopefully help you understand a little bit more of how to read it. You're going to go put it together with the survey. It makes more sense when you're looking at the survey, right? Exactly what parcel of land they're talking about. So what is a legal description? A written land description, which delineates a specific piece of property. It's not the address or GPS location. So why do we use this? Because it's more precise, right, than the address or the GPS location. So it's a universal identifier of your property. Where do we use legal descriptions, right? So they'll be on your deed, they'll be on your parcel register, other conveyance documents, they'll be on your survey plan, they'll be in an agreement of purchase and sale, which is what we're responsible for doing, and they'll be on your property tax assessment, okay? And where do we use them the most? Who uses them? We use them for the sale of the property, the obvious one that we're doing all day, every day. When you're getting a mortgage, they're also putting that charge on that specific legal description, not on the address, right? If you're doing a division of property or severance, if you're joining two properties together, or if you're changing titles on a deed. So, you know, you might be taking your partner off that you invested with, or a spouse passes away, you're going to change the title or deed, they need that legal description again, right? So legal descriptions have so much amazing knowledge that if you know how to read it correctly, it'll give you extra sets of eyes on the property, okay? Whether you are on the listing side or the selling side, So be very careful. Like I find just because you're not the listing agent, you're just purchasing it, don't go by what the person has put on the listing. Very often there's not enough space in that listing to put the full legal description. Okay. Most listing agents should be checking GeoWarehouse, and when they realize that the short version they're putting up is not enough space, should be putting some kind of star and putting it back down in the brokerage remarks or something. Okay. But it's your responsibility as the purchasing agent now to go and check that legal description, because there is enough space in the agreement of purchase and sale to put a full legal description. And even if there isn't, you'd put it in your Schedule A or something if it was ridiculously long. But you should be checking the full thing every time. Oh, here it's telling exactly what I'm saying. Very often listings will have a shortened version due to limit on space. In our agreement of purchase and sale, we require the full, because that's the actual document that you're purchasing the property with, what the lawyer is going to be relying on. So everyone gets excited when they find the perfect house, floor plan works, backyard's great, street seems idyllic, an offer is submitted, friends and family are called, and you're filled with excitement about your purchase. But which house are you buying? Where is it? Everyone asks. You always tell them a street number, a street name, or the intersection, or the neighborhood you bought in. Oh, I bought in Woburn, it's great, right? So it's not actually what you're buying, though. You're not actually buying that street address, right? It doesn't tell you about that property as far as legality is concerned with the lawyers and the realtors of the universe, right? So you have to look and understand what the legal description is of the property as a realtor. And we're going to go here and we're going to go to the survey now. So street addresses are great, but for getting mail to your door, but they're not nearly precise enough to define and divide up land between owners. As anyone who's ever had a fence dispute with a neighbor knows, people care about knowing and controlling their property down to the last inch. So why is it so important to have the survey? If I know I have this address and my lot's 50 feet wide, what kind of things do the survey tell us that go beyond just, oh, this is my address and 50 feet of this is my frontage and it goes 122 feet back? Right? If you go and you should pull surveys, pull your own survey for your property and read it. It's very important, because where does that 50 feet start, right? From the dwelling, it'll show all the dimensions from here is the house, and from the house, how many feet to that fence line. So you can see if your neighbor's encroaching on you or not, right? I've lived in my property 20 years. I just did my fences last year and I realized that she is encroaching by about 3.5 inches, right? But I know it wasn't her. I've lived in the neighborhood my whole life. And I know it was the owner before her who put in the pool, because my house was tenanted. He took advantage of the fact tenants don't know. And he came over, instead of putting it in the middle of the lot line, he put the fence and grabbed those 3 extra inches, right?
Same thing with my neighbor. My number is 3, he's this first. He came and told me it's not your fault, but the seller living before me, right?
Yeah.
They put the same kind of fence, like
yeah, over. Instead of putting it in the middle of the lot line, they put it in favor of them on the lot line. Yeah. But hey, you think about it, you grab 3 inches on this side, 3 inches on that side, or 6 inches, whatever, you might get an extra foot in your backyard, which can make a big difference for the whole perimeter. Well, I was actually nice because the fence had always been there. I have a horrible neighbor, by the way. On that side, it's a horrible, horrible neighbor. Not in the mood to fight with her. I've lived there 20 years now, so I never missed the 3 inches. I wasn't about to go. Plus, she had her now the interlock is right up to that fence, right? And she never did that interlock either. The person before did. So I thought, I'm gonna have to tear up this whole row of interlock for 3 inches. Oh, I just pulled the fence off and put it right back where it was, because I had put in a pool, right? So I needed to put my fence up and I was like, I don't need the 3 inches, it's fine. But I didn't discover it till I pulled my survey out, because I pulled my survey out and I'm measuring from the house on that side and I'm going, all along here I seem to be off by 3.5, 4 inches or so. So I was like, yeah, definitely important to know how to read your survey. Also,
but when you want to sell, what you're gonna do, you have to write down exact size, like
you have to write down the exact size of your lot, but that would be considered an encroachment, and a lot of them are grandfathered in. So for instance, the reason I didn't kick up a big fuss is because she wasn't the one who put the fence over, and that was done when I was a teenager, maybe, or maybe 10-ish, when that neighbor put in the pool and those fences. So we're looking at a pretty old dispute. I think they'd grandfather in that encroachment and they just let it be. I don't think they'd be tearing up everything for it. So It didn't bother me. I don't plan on moving anytime soon. So yeah, I think it's okay. But I mean, you could dispute it. You could, because it does show on your survey that from this building, that's how many inches it is to your fence. That's what your land is, right? So it's important to know how to read it. Also, whether or not your land goes straight. Is it a conventional, rectangular lot, or is it, something irregular, right? You need to look at all the dimensions around for your survey. So a survey gets submitted to the local land registry office. So this will kind of answer your question a little bit, where it's given a unique registration number and made available to the public. There are dozens of local land registry offices in Ontario, and each one has a unique prefix. So Prince Edward County is 47, Hastings is 21. So once a survey is accepted by a land registry office, it becomes a registered plan. So that's how we always get, 21R. We're going to know that it's, that registered plan 21. So that's what makes up your neighborhood there and that your little plan. And then you're going to see something like 47R 934. In an agreement, it really just means it's the 934th registered plan in that registry office. For Prince Edward County, for instance, the number is R47. It would be the same for all plans given in a given land registry office. So everything in that Prince Edward County would have that 47R in it. And then the number after to follow would be what plan in that neighborhood, the 934th plan, for instance. Okay. So what's your part in all of this? Our plans can and often are then divided into several smaller parts. So we're coming into that one that you guys were asking about where it says part 1, part 2. Not surprisingly referred to as parts in a plan. There is no limit as to how many parts there are on a plan. These parts are used by surveyors to break up larger parcels of land when there's a specific reason to more precisely describe portions of the land. Okay, so again, you got this like survey plan here, your registered plan that's been filed with the city, and now you're going to divide that into parts. So what part of the plan is? So you might look at your survey. I think on mine, I'm part 3. I should pull up my survey if I have it here. And so it shows a few houses on either side of me. And I know looking at that, because the legal description on the bottom says, registered plan, whatever it is in Scarborough, and then part 3, I know looking at that, and I know that that's my parcel that I'm looking at, right? That's my specific part of the land. So maybe there's a right of way in favor of the neighbor across the back, 15 feet of your lot. Maybe it describes where Bell Canada is allowed to bury phone lines, or maybe the previous owners were thinking about splitting up their lot into 2 parcels. Whatever the reason, the R plan and the various parts in it, in most cases, what the land registry office uses to actually describe how the legal boundaries between the owners of land. So when it says part 2 and 3, 47R, 934, it means you're buying the second and third, but not the first and fourth parts on the 934th registered plan in Prince Edward County. So now everybody is like probably totally confused because it's a whole lot of numbers thrown at you. But basically, you're just looking for 47R. Okay, so whatever the district is for Scarborough, say Scarborough's 24, we'd be 24R 934, the 934th plan, and your client is purchasing part 2 and 3. So now you have the survey, and you're going to look. There's part 1, 2, 3, 4. You know that you're going to look at the parts 2 and 3 on that survey, because legally describing that's the portions of the land that you're purchasing with the property, right? So an instrument of understanding. Instruments are essentially public notices allowed by land registry office that get placed or registered against a particular part of land. A mortgage, for example, is a type of instrument. So a deed that transfers ownership from seller to buyer. Other instruments can create rights for your property in neighboring lands or put obligations on your land in favor of others. Instruments like R plans get a unique registration number. These alphanumeric numbers look like PE 1234 or QR 4567. And your land can either be subject to ST or together with, so we're seeing that again, with these instruments. On their own, these numbers don't mean anything. The actual instrument document itself has to be retrieved from the land registry office. So very often you have to do a little digging, or your client has to do a little digging, or the lawyer has to do a little digging. Once you realize that it's subject to something or together with something, then you're like, you can notify your client. You can say, we're not sure what it is. Might be a hydro easement. I don't know. Maybe the neighbor has, like they say, 15 feet on the back of this lot. But let's dig a little further because there is an easement on this property, right? So you have to go in. So sometimes there can be a repeat in a legal description. That's just simply a repeat over time, over history. Sometimes that happens. You'll see very often it repeats itself in the legal description. And I've often gone, why don't they delete one? But they keep it over time. Okay, so don't be confused by that. These are the regular things that you normally see in the legal description. So PT part, that's the section, exact part that you're buying, right? And then the LT is short for lot. BLK can be block, so they could be referring to a certain block in a neighborhood. PL, plan, or PCL, parcel. SEC for section. And we see LT for lot is repeated there. CON for concession. RT for right of way. Or ROW for right of way. You might see that in a legal description. ST subject to, TW together with, and TWP, which is township. So let's go back here a little bit and see what we can pick apart on this a little bit. Okay, so we see here it says lot 53. So we already know that that's the specific lot going to be on the survey, right? Then we see that plan 65M. So I'm going to assume that M is for 65 is the number for Richmond Hill, right? Because we have that 65M or 65R you see later on we were talking about, okay? And look at the plan number here. It's 3,753, right? And we see that subject to the easement over part 5. So you're going to have to look on the survey and see if that part 5 affects what you're purchasing here, right? In favor of the corporation of the town of Richmond Hill, okay? Subject to easement for entry as in, so you're going to have to figure out what this is. Easement for entry. So I'm going to say, because it says easement for entry, that sounds to me like a utility kind of easement, right? But you have to go digging again. You have to go to the registry office. You have to figure out what this number, what instrument this number pertains to. Or you can give it to the lawyer if you want to make 100% sure, like your client has plans to build on it. You don't want to make assumptions on your own, but you know that there's something there that you want to warn them about, right? Now, a lot of times,
check this, right? Lawyer has to pay something, or they can pick it.
Most of the time, if you make good with like city contacts, you can pull stuff on your own. Even when you're doing a lot of commercial, if you call or you go visit on the regular and you're nice, sometimes they're miserable when you go to the city. Sorry, but sometimes they'll be helpful. You know what I mean? You can say like, "What is this? Like, why is this?" They might print or pull something for that specific parcel of land, especially if you have the assessment roll number and you make it easy for them and you have it all like, you can tell them, oops, my battery is low. Why? Let's see here. There we go. Sorry?
No, I mean, whatever written there, so we cannot see on land registry, what does it mean? They don't put any detail?
No, they don't put any detail here. This is just a legal description to let you know something is there. So hopefully that's charging. Can't see here.
Yeah, okay.
Plugged in. Okay, good.
Write it down, huh?
Don't panic though with your clients because a lot of times, for instance, they'll do a like a site plan. They're going to build a neighborhood here. They're putting in 35 homes, and they'll put in easements on the property or rights of way because during the time while they're building and they're going on to different phases of that neighborhood, they might need to come in and enter into that property, right? But once the neighborhood's fairly built, even though there's a subject to or together with or something on that property, they may never come again for the next 100 years on that property. They may never need it, right? You just have to be aware that it's there and what part of your property it pertains to, right? So you're going to come across this a lot. Don't scare your clients to go, oh my God, no, there's an easement on the property. Don't, like, it's not something to be fearful of. It's just something you need to be knowledgeable about, right? That you need to know exists.
Especially new subdivision, we don't need to worry much about it, but the thing is, when we buy outskirt, like huge land. For example, I'm looking at the property 7236 Cascade.
Okay.
8.5 acres.
Okay.
After you say stories, now I feel panic.
Don't
You know,
just go and check the legal description and see.
I just want to bring you to everybody's attention. Maybe you can repeat it once again.
Yeah.
Vijay recently sold one property in Porto
Right?
that has got the like nuclear material like uranium or thorium they brought from PC to here.
Mhm.
It just is the route.
Oh,
To Porto or something.
Mhm.
So he realized that one agent he got it. Some agent called and then he asked for a report from the city.
Mhm.
So you have to get a clearance to sell the property. So that took some time for him to understand, and then it has been shared with him.
Yeah.
So what are the documents? So you have to do because you are not familiar with the area.
Exactly, yeah.
Right? So because
Yeah,
the
well,
first
Port
step
Hope, anybody buying or selling in Port Hope should be aware that you have to get the report from the city because of the contamination. You have to make sure, there's no contamination on what you're buying. So that's a hot area. Like you should be aware. Like I say, we don't normally see a lot of right-of-ways in Scarborough necessarily, unless it's older little pockets. You see a lot of them in East York though, Hamilton, older areas that have been built, you know what I mean, where the houses are really close together. They're sharing those rights of ways. You see them more often. So be aware of where you're practicing in, but always go and check. It's so easy. Sometimes I see these complaints come to the office and I go, oh my God, if that agent just went and checked this information, we wouldn't be like in the middle of this complaint process right now. Because you put a word. No, this is for residential and commercial. Mhm. Mhm. Every time you go into a property, so I know you weren't here right at the beginning. If I click on this listing, hopefully it's still up. This is a regular residential listing.
Yeah, it's
And I clicked on the Geo Warehouse from here. So pretend you're gonna go and you're gonna go create, you wanna go and create an offer. You're gonna go to SkySlope and you're gonna start creating your offer. You come in here and you create your kit. Right? You're gonna go back to that listing, click on Geo Warehouse and open up the Geo Warehouse and check a bunch of different things, not just the legal description. When you're creating your offer, you wanna check that the title is the same, okay? So this listing agent, let's see who they put. Okay, they did put two. Sometimes, they make a mistake and they only put one person's name on there, right? And there's two untitled. Or perhaps maybe there's two untitled and only one selling.
maybe one is
and the down is there.
There's two here. There's two names, right?
One person passed away something.
This is from the listing information or this one?
This is the listing I have up right now. The same, just the one I've been using as an example today for the trading.
Where you saw only one.
And then-
one name?
No, sometimes I'm
Oh,
saying.
okay.
Sometimes there's, it timed me out now. Hold on, let me go click back into the Geo Warehouse. Yeah, sometimes there might be two people on title and they only put one. So you have to call and investigate. So Roger's just saying like, maybe somebody passed away recently and it hasn't been taken off title yet. The lawyer's gonna do it at the time of this closing because they're selling the property. So there might be reasons why they haven't put it on, but you definitely want to check and make sure it matches, and make sure you have the correct information.
When I put the other offer, I put both names. If they want, they can.
They can cross it off. It's a good practice, right? And you, yeah. So you're also checking the legal description in here. That's a big place where a lot of mistakes are made. But then scroll down further. You're going to check the lot front and lot depth. So by doing that, so see, it's 50.8 and 110.87. Let's see what this agent put. So they put it 50.11 and 110.98. So I'm not really sure why they made it a little bit bigger. 110.87. 110. See, they're a little off. Okay, so in this case, I would never put what the listing agent put because why am I trusting it? It's human error. It's entry error maybe on his part. It's not my problem, but if anything came to be like my client couldn't get a addition because the measurements are a little bit off, I can say, no, look, it's not my fault. The measurements aren't off. I checked Geo Warehouse. My offer matches Geo Warehouse. I'm confident. Every time I do an offer, I'm confident that if it came back, I know I went on Geo Warehouse and checked. I didn't rely on the other agent's information, right?
Geo Warehouse, bound to become something like
Irregular.
Yeah, irregular. They were put 50.8, then
0.
38.9.
So then you know what a good practice to do is, and you'll see it in my listings that are irregular lots. If you go back and look at any of my listings, I will put like lot front 50 and then 0. And then I'll put an asterisk and I'll put in my Schedule A, lot dimensions, and I'll copy and paste all the lot dimensions, right?
Okay.
Even when I load my listing, I'll put a regular lot and then I'll put all the lot dimensions around whatever Geo Warehouse has. And it's easy to go. You don't have to go and take it all yourself. So for instance, here, you see it's 110.98, 29.76, 111.85, and 50.11. So here I can see where he got it from.
Mhm.
He took the bigger sides by a few inches.
Agent, they do it like that.
Yeah, but it's so silly because as far as Geo Warehouse is concerned, because the frontage is the front of your lot. So in this case, I consider him wrong. He's taking the back of the lot because it seems a little bit bigger.
Something from here, if you go to impact,
Yeah,
you'll have the full amount.
yes, yeah,
Impact might say is 11.
right.
50.11. Maybe he took it from there.
Maybe, okay,
It
so
happens.
so we used to be able to check MPAC
Yeah.
and Geo Warehouse, right? And they kind of merged a lot of the information for us and they put it on Geo Warehouse. So we can't just automatically log into, we can buy a lot of products from MPAC now, but we can't pull up that report. You know what I'm talking about, Sri? Like how, sorry? Yeah, you can click on here, right? Property line MPAC. So this, okay, they've turned it in more like, it's not user friendly like it was before. Do you know what I'm talking about? So they're making us pay for all the reports. So they used to be like this Geo Warehouse where we could go in and check information like this, but it was kind of good because then Geo Warehouse kind of merged and they updated with them and they could put in the demographic reports and all the stuff that we can print here in our PDF when we print this for our clients. So it's not terrible. So anyways, going into our legal description, going into our Geo Warehouse, important, come in and check year built, right? Because sometimes it's misrepresented on the listing. Check how many bathrooms and how many bedrooms, right? This is a way to tell if you're buying a 4-bedroom house and you come in and it says 3 bedrooms, you say, okay, I know some renovation's been done here. Do you have a permit? When was the renovation done? Was it approved? You know what I mean? The person might say, no, I bought it like this, like a 4-bedroom, right? But you want to know these things that you might come across, right? If it only says 2 full bathrooms, now there's 4. Again, some sort of renovation done in the property. All different things you can tell by here, like the site area and all of that stuff, whether it's a separate or private driveway. This says single family detached, right? I've seen people list things as a freehold that are a condo or a condo that should be a freehold. You guys got to come in here. It'll tell you if this was a condo, it would say single family condominium, right? So if you're unsure, like sometimes these townhouses are really tricky, right? Is it a parcel of tied land or is it a condo?
Even
right?
though some detached house, downstairs, they make 4 bedrooms,
Yeah,
they don't have any permission.
yeah, exactly. You have to be aware of what you're buying, right? Because your client might want to go and use it and, relying on that rental potential. And then when they go to do it, the neighbor complains, the city comes in and says, this isn't a legal basement, take it out. Right.
Something that Geo Warehouse is a built-in garage, it says attached. I have noticed that.
Attached, and it's not attached?
No, it's built-in.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, exactly. A lot of people don't know the difference between,
Yeah, like room on top of the garage. Built-in means you may
Yeah,
have some.
it should be inside.
yeah. So a lot of people confuse that though,
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen realtors confuse that too.
Just for awareness, like bell guys, right?
Yeah,
Bell guys, whenever they want to do a temporary line for your house,
right.
they want to use the neighborhood trees to bring the wire. And
Yeah, I've got one on mine right now.
My neighbors, they said, no way.
I'm telling you, I've got one on mine right now and it's driving me nuts, but they're taking forever to come and bury the line.
You should not agree to the temporary line itself. So if you have the temporary line.
Well, I just had the stamped concrete put in and they wanted to dig. And I'm like, you're not busting out my concrete I just put down. I said, move the box. Well, they don't want to move the box. They don't want to take time to move the box. So they tied up the thing. Anyways, Rogers, what are you going to do about it? So does anybody have any questions so far online there? You guys have all been quiet. I hope you guys are going on, like I say, not only for your listing, but for your purchases, for your offers, you're going and you're checking the Geo Warehouse every single time you go to do it. Right? Let's pull another geo warehouse and see if we can see something else in another title. Just to familiarize yourself with different ones. We've been going over this 180 Worthington this whole time. Let's just pull another one and see what happens. So we'll go to 825 South View. Okay, and we'll come into the geo warehouse here. Okay, so here we go. We're part lot 11 concession in front of concession A and concession A in South Monaghan as in R604441. So that's the 60,000th plan or something, 604,000. It must cover a big area in the township, right, of Otonabee, South Monaghan. So this one doesn't say anything about subject to or together with any easements or anything. But that's basically what you're going to be reading on your survey. So you can find out where it is. Oh, that's what I was going to do. I wonder if I do a quick search in my email, I can pull up a survey for you guys. Has anybody ever looked at a survey before? Let's just pull up any survey, hopefully, that I have in my email. Steeplechase survey. Let's see this. I must have just sent this to my client. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to make a little bit sense of these things that say part this, part that. So, sorry, I'm trying to get it a little bit bigger for you guys, but it won't stay there. But you can see that it says, you know, registered plan up here in the top left corner, right? And it's going to have the full legal description here of which property it pertains to. So it'll be different each property, even though they put multiple properties on the one report. See, it's not just the one. So let's pretend that this one says that it's, pardon me, part 3, okay? So part 3 is the one that I'm selling. This is the one I'm going to be looking at. Here you can see this is the dwelling. It'll give you the dimensions from the dwelling to the fence lines, right? It gives you the whole lot lines around, the frontage and the depth, right? And it'll show you where, for instance, this one has a porch and everything on it. It won't stay. I have to download it on my thing. It won't stay blown up for you guys. But you get a basic idea of what that legal description was explaining now that you look at a survey, right? Because it doesn't really make sense unless you put the two together to kind of get a visual to see what's going on. But even still, if the survey's not available, the legal description tells you enough that you know, like, there might be that easement or something along the line.
Easement, will they write it down on survey?
You'll be able to, might be able to see what it pertains to. So if it says something like subject to instrument, whatever, sometimes it might be written on here and then you might see like a hydro line go through, say, all the backyards or something. You might be something like that if you're lucky, but not always.
Yeah. Say like ST subject to.
Yeah.
I think Low has to pay and pull it out.
Yeah.
We can read it.
You can try to go to the city. Some, like I say, sometimes you luck out if you call the city and you investigate a little bit. You might find out what that pertains to, but yeah, at least you know ahead of time that you're looking for something, right? That's just a quick example there. Do you guys have any questions online? Everybody good? Everybody experts now? Remember, we're not experts though. Even though we're kind of familiarizing ourselves with how to read these things, we know it's there. We know enough to warn our clients, but we're not giving legal advice at the end of the day. Yeah? Sorry, did you have a question?
I had a question. I was just wondering if we could access the doc you had somewhere.
Which doc? Like the ones
Like
that
the one with the explaining the easements and everything.
Oh, those are just my trading docs. I can send that to you. I can email you my PDFs.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, for sure.
That would be great. Thank you, Christine.
No problem.
Christine,
Yeah.
does the easement affect the value of the property anytime?
No, like I say, most easements we shouldn't be concerned about because they're just grandfathered in there because when they were building the neighborhood, a lot of these hydro and utility easements we see very often. Sometimes, so I've seen, for instance, there is like a sewer grate in someone's backyard and maybe they're the low point of the neighborhood where it's an easement from the city of Toronto, for instance, where they can go in and they can service that sewer. It might suck in the sense that you're the lowest point of the neighborhood and all the water sort of drains to you and you have this grate in your backyard. It depends on what it is and exactly how it's going to affect them. If it's a buried line, it's a hydro line and it's an easement and nobody's going to come around for the next 100 years, it just happens to be in there, it's not going to affect it at all. So that's what you have to find out, what exactly kind of easement is it? Or is there a regular problem occurring? Like, you know, I don't know, if it's a new neighborhood and you are like the hub of where all the gas lines meet, and as they do phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 of this neighborhood, which can take 10, 15, 20 years, you living in that neighborhood, Enbridge is going to keep on coming back and digging up the back portion of your lot, then yeah, maybe that'll affect the value of it going forward, but you kind of need to investigate what kind of easement it is.
But in some, I noticed that they put a date, easement until such and such date. So then it's okay, right? Yeah. In
And it's
that case,
okay.
it's yeah.
Yeah, over time I've seen that happen. I think builders have gotten smarter.
New subdivision.
Yeah, new subdivisions, right? But like I say, we work a lot in Scarborough, you know what I mean? If you work in Hamilton, East Shore, they weren't doing that back then. So that easement is just on there forever and ever. And like I say, sometimes it can mean absolutely nothing to the property. It just happens to be on the legal description. So.
Okay. Thanks, Christy.
No problem. Everybody else good? No other questions? All right, everybody. I will let you go have a lovely, cozy morning and enjoy the rest of your day. Try to stay dry. I heard it's going to be a thunderstorm later. Who was telling me that? I think Muhammad Ali was in here a little bit earlier. He was telling me it was going to be a thunderstorm later, like a whole bunch of rain later. So make sure you're home and like cozy and not running out in the rain later. Awesome.
Thank you, Christy.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Have a nice
Thank
day.
you.
Thank
too.
you,
Have a good
Christine.
day.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you,
Bye.
Christine.
No problem. Bye-bye.
Whatever.